A man in such a position of power tells them it's okay to smoke marijuana, wink, wink. We all know it isn't. In fact, experts will tell you today how dangerous it is. But I'm not going to talk about marijuana per se. That's only part and parcel of the meltdown of our society under this liberal juggernaut that is ruling the world. I woke up this morning and I saw a very sad story about a track star, age 19, at University of Pennsylvania, who jumped off a building. The girl was beautiful. She was talented. She was physically fit. Track star from New Jersey. Jumps from a Philly parking garage because of the stress of her grades at her Ivy League school, her father told the New York Post. She went to college. She was happy. Then there's more pressure on her than ever before, right? And so she gets under a lot of pressure trying to, get straight A's. So she shares her suicidal thoughts with her parents, and guess what happens? They send her to a drug pusher called a therapist. The drug pusher therapist puts her on antidepressants, and guess what happens next? She jumps off a building. I am going to tell you right now that drugs, the prescription drugs, are about as dangerous as they come. Antidepressants, psychiatric meds, as the New American said years ago, is a prescription for murder. I've been writing about the dangers of these drugs in books since 1982 when I wrote Healing Children Naturally. I've been warning you against putting your children on these hazardous drugs. I'm warning you about the medical profession, Zoloft, Adderall, Pramate, Elavil. They're killing your children. If your child is particularly intelligent, he or she is at greater risk than the average child because they're taking the brightest amongst our children and doping them up to make them conform, and they're letting the dumbest amongst our children lead the classes. Now, is it a conspiracy? No. What it is pure greed. It's all about money. What they've done here is found a method of permitting parents who are lazy to put their children on disability payments. That's right. You heard me. You don't understand what's going on here, but I do. Did you know that children who are declared to be disabled get a certain amount of money from Social Security that's more than your grandfather who fought in the Korean War does? Mental illness is now the leading cause of disability in children, well ahead of physical disabilities such as cerebral palsy or Down syndrome, for which these federal programs were created. And as a result of this, the pharmaceutical establishment, in cahoots with the shrinks, are saying with almost a rubber stamp, yeah, your child's disabled, put him on this, put him on that, and we're having these heroic suicides and heroic homicides as a result. That's one of the main topics that I want to talk about today on the Savage Nation. And in order to engage you in this topic and bring you into the discussion, I would like to invite you to call with your antidepressant horror stories. Have you or someone in your family or close circle been affected negatively by antidepressants? You see, they're not all they're cracked up to be. Let me explain to you in a nutshell what most of the antidepressants are. The most popular type, the Prozac type, is called an SSRI, a selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor. What does that mean? It means serotonin makes us feel good. It's a mood-stabilizing chemical that our body naturally produces as a result of a certain right amount of sleep, the right foods, the right exercise. We'll have a certain amount of serotonin in our serum at any time. Well, the thought is that if that's a mood stabilizer, more of it would be better. And so the shrinks worked in cahoots with the drug establishment to find a way to keep as much of the serotonin circulating in our serum at all times as possible. It made sense. I mean, it wasn't they set out to hurt anybody. Figured people are depressed. What's the best way to keep them their mood elevated, make sure that the serotonin levels are kept up. So we'll develop a drug that constantly prevents the body from depleting serotonin. Well, guess what? There's no such thing as a free lunch. And there's no such thing as an endless supply of serotonin. And if you keep artificially squeezing on that serotonin pump, eventually the pump runs dry. The person goes into a black hole. The person climbs a roof and throws themselves off it. Or the person picks up a gun like Adam Lanza and goes and wastes a bunch of children. It's not the guns, stupid. It's the psychiatric drugs. And that's what I want to talk about. My dog just looked up. He got excited. Old Teddy's back in the studio. He had his grooming yesterday. I wouldn't put my dog on such a medication, and yet many of you do. Many of you have been so brainwashed by the medical establishment that you even put your dog or cat on Prozac or Prozac-like compounds because they acted too much like a dog or a cat. Don't you understand that this is all social control? You don't get it. You will get it. The phone number is 855-400-7282. It's the Savage Nation. We're talking today primarily about the grave dangers that Obama put our youngsters in by telling them marijuana is no more dangerous than alcohol. And I'm not arguing you should become an alcoholic, nor am I arguing you should even drink a beer. I'm just telling you that marijuana is far more deadly than alcohol, by the way. And then I want to talk about your marijuana, leave out marijuana, I'm sorry, your antidepressant horror stories. Either your own, did you get them prescribed, and what did it do to you? Or do you know someone in your family who was put on any of these wackadoodle drugs, and what it did to them? Again, the phone number is 855-400-7282. I now want to go back for a moment to radio per se, because I have begun in the new slot. It's only been 20 days now. 19 or 20 days of the month. I've only been on the air 2 or 3 weeks in this daytime slot after 20 years in radio. And I want to read you some of the article comments that we've gotten so far, and then I want you to call me on this issue. Do you like my new show? Do you still think I'm better than the wallbanger who competes with me? Now, the wallbanger put himself out. I know he's going to regret what he said, but wallbanger said he's going to leave New York over Governor Cuomo slamming pro-lifers. He will not leave New York. I will bet you any amount of money that he's lying about that as he lies about some other things, including charitable events. So I want to read you some of the things people are saying thus far about Michael Savage and about the others. I like Savage because he's a conservative and puts Democrats and Republicans on the carpet, someone wrote. He is not a party hack. Plus, as an old reform lib, he knows how to get in their face and dish back to them what they dish out. Republicans just don't know how to fight. Savage does. I also love that Savage has more than just politics to discuss, which makes his show more entertaining and seldom boring. I love Savage in the new slot. I think that H is a nice guy, and I like him on TV with guests, but his radio show is so dull and a broken record. And when the GOP is in power, Wallbanger becomes a Republican hack, as he was during the Bush years. He only becomes a conservative when Dems have the White House. I can only listen to the Wallbanger when he has guests on, as he does on his TV show. Funny how when I see him on TV with guests, his voice does not bother me. But on the radio, Wallbanger's voice is irritating, and I cannot listen to him for long. Next comment is this. The 3 best conservative talk radio hosts by far are the 3 that we know. But I have to give Savage credit for writing off the Republicans years before Limbaugh and others realized the GOP is a wolf in sheep's clothing. Well, he doesn't mention others. And Savage at 3 p.m. Eastern has caught fire. It will be the biggest thing in radio. Others have said, I wish he was still on at night because he was the last word in talk radio, and he's addictive. If you get a comment on any of those topics, the phone number is 855-107-282. If you can hear the background sound, the tea is brewing in the radio kitchen, and yet we can hear it because I leave the door open to make sure I know when the water's boiling, so it doesn't boil over and ruin anything. Again, the topics are drugs and radio. 855-400-7282. Let's start with a quick call. Ferris on WABC. Go ahead, please.
Good day, Doctor. This woman who jumped from the building for the University of Pennsylvania says less about drugs than it says about our society. In other words, the marijuana that Obama's talking about, how insane and how stupid is a culture to believe this president, and I use that.
Wait, hold on. You're going off the track. You're talking about the girl who was not on marijuana. She was on an antidepressant.
Yes, she has the same vapid existence that all of the other young people.
Oh, no, she's dead. You don't know what existence she had. That's not right of you to say that. The girl was a track star. She was an academic star. She goes to the University of Pennsylvania. She gets into pressure. She tells her father. They send her to a shrink. The shrink puts her on antidepressants. A few days or a few weeks later, she jumps off a building.
Sure, but how did she get that way? She went to the government public schools. That is a GPS. She attended the...
All right, thanks for the call. All right, Ferris is barred from the show for a few days and weeks. First of all, he's a regular. Let me tell you, regulars are bad for radio. then you start to sound like Wallbanger or one of the others. You don't have regulars on unless they call you a great American. And I'm not a great American. You're not a great American unless you're 6 feet under in a military cemetery. You're not a great American. I'll be right back.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage. The Savage Nation is presented by Swiss America at 800-BUY-COIN, the only gold company Michael...
The list includes 15-year-old Kip Kinkle withdrawing from Prozac when he shot 22 classmates, killing 2 after murdering his mother and stepfather at his home in Springfield, Oregon. 14-year-old Elizabeth Bush on Prozac when she blasted away at fellow students in Williamsport, Pennsylvania, wounding 1. 18-year-old Jason Hoffman on Effexor and Celexa when he opened fire at his California high school, wounding 5. 15-year-old Sean Cooper on a mix of antidepressants when he shot students in Idaho. 15-year-old TJ Solomon also on a mix of antidepressants when he aimed his shotgun at classmates in Conyers, Georgia, wounding 6. And 17-year-old Eric Harris on Luvox when he and partner Dylan Klebold killed 12 classmates and a teacher in the bloodiest school massacre yet, Columbine.
Well, that was then. This is now, and it's gotten worse, and drugs are involved in every school shooting that I've been able to investigate. And I don't think that enough of us in the media are doing our jobs with regard to warning America about these prescriptions for murder that are being put out by the drug peddlers with psychiatric credentials. The fact of the matter is they can be very helpful in some cases and extremely dangerous in others, but they don't come with sufficient warning labels. But there's an element to it that needs to be discussed, and that is, why are the prescriptions for these drugs on a rise? Answer, because of the racket called disability. Because disability in children puts the income from SSI up through the roof. As a result, a bunch of corrupt parents in the hundreds of thousands say that their child has mental problems, can't pay attention, can't do this, go to the shrink. Shrink says, yeah, mentally ill, put him on the drug. The child then gets a check for the fat mommy so she can go and gamble away at an Indian gambling casino, I would imagine. And meanwhile, you have a roving murderer there sitting there with drugs in his system that can go off at any moment. So it's not about the guns, it's about the drugs, and it's time we talked about the dangers of prescription antidepressants. I've asked you to call with your prescription, and I want to tell you something. This topic is something I've been involved in publishing since 1982 when I wrote Healing Children Naturally. I started that book in the, maybe I have a peanut allergy and I'll die on the air. I don't really know. But meanwhile, my voice is going. I did it again. I'm eating mixed nuts, low salt, no salt, and I keep forgetting that I shouldn't do it while I'm on the air. Actually, my voice sounds interesting. I find it very sexy. The feedback's very good, so maybe I should keep eating nuts. Rich on WJR, welcome to the Savage Nation.
Hey, good afternoon. Thanks, sir. Actually, I'm quite excited. I got through on the first attempt, and I'm very honored to have a chance to speak with you.
Okay, go ahead. Fire away.
What I was calling for is not regarding to the drugs, about your time change and becoming available in your earlier time slot. Prior to this time change, a few weeks back, I've always listened to WJR, and I've always listened to Mr. Limbaugh in the afternoon, but I was not familiar with your name or who you were. But now I find myself going out of my way every day at 3 o'clock to be in the car, because I'm a salesman, to be in the car.
That's good. Rich, let me tell you, first of all, I had you up on the air because you called, and I figured, okay, we're talking about drugs and about new listeners. I'm honored to be on WJR and all the other news stations in this primetime slot that they kicked Hannity off. They kicked him off 52 of the best stations in the country. No matter what he says, he can't spin that. And they did so because I had a reputation that preceded me, and they figured that you'd like me, and I'm glad that you do. Let me send you a copy of Trickle-Down Tyranny, which will go out to you today. Now let's go to the callers on the suicidal, homicidal thoughts and urges that they themselves or others have had. WABC, Richard, you're next up. Go ahead. You're on the Savage Nation.
Michael, you're 100%, because I was diagnosed as bipolar schizophrenic, and the psychiatrist in Philadelphia They gave me Seroquin, 300 milligrams, free time to day. That was 900 milligrams. It made the thought that you just want to commit suicide. You wanted to get out of your body so much, and everything.
Wait, hold on. So they put you on Seroquin. What happened? Did you get off it?
Oh, I went cold turkey because, like I said, they kept saying, "No, you need more. You need more." Because